Thank you.
A warm welcome to everyone. Good morning, good evening, everyone. Over to you, Nitinji. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Thank you, Pallavi ji. Radhe Radhe. Good morning, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Madanji, for the beautiful Patanjali Yoga Sutra session, and thank you, Sunil Bhai. So, good morning, good evening to all of you. Like always, hope you're having a wonderful start to your day, or had a good day if you are here in US. Welcome to today's edition of Daily Wisdom from Bhagavad Gita. We are towards the end of our third chapter, and it has taken multiple sessions because it's a very important concept that we are discussing, the concept of chariot. We came to a conjecture where we were talking about we are all taken our own chariots and rotating around this in this 8.4 million, and that chariot unfortunately is being led by the horses, with the charioteer reins or the passenger having no control over it whatsoever. And today, in order to conclude that discussion, we are going to look at what needs to be done so that the chariot comes under control and takes a direction which is befitting for it, or a direction which takes the passenger, which is us, the soul, in the right direction. And that is where we will conclude our discussion. So we'll do a quick recap, and like we always do, I'm going to introduce a new shloka again today, which we will discuss because it is closely mapped to the concept that we are discussing. So today we will do two shloka. One we've already been doing, 3.43, and then in addition to that, there's another shloka, chapter 8, verse 7. So today, whoever is a volunteer, you get a chance. If you don't get on the first one, you can actually recite the second one. So let's get started. I'm going to share my screen and we'll get started with our opening prayers. Pallaviji, no issues with audio, right? If you do, it's a bit like the weather of Himachal right now. My audio, it may start off as sunny, but it may start raining anytime. But if it does, do let me know before it goes too far.
Definitely. Right now it's perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Weather of Dallas also, I can say that. All right, so let's get started with our opening prayers. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagatgurum. Krishnam Vande Jagatgurum. Right, Radhe Radhe everyone. Let's get started. Like I said, we have two shlokas, so we'll get started with 3.43 and then we'll go to the next one. So let me recite it and then we'll take few hands. Evam buddhe param buddhva sanstabhyatmanamatmana jahi shatrum mahabaho kamarupam durasadam. Do we have any volunteers?
Yes, I see Rupaji. Rupaji, please go ahead. Radhe Radhe. Yeah.
Radhe Radhe everyone.
Radhe Radhe.
Evam buddhe param buddhva sansabhyatmanam atmana jahi shatrum mahabaho kamarupam durasadam.
Very nice, Rupaji. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Radhe Radhe everyone.
Radhe.
Shanti, please go ahead.
Take two more on this and then the remaining can take the next one. Radhe Radhe Shanti. Radhe Radhe.
Evam buddhe param buddhva sanstabhyatmanamatmana jahi shatrum mahabaho Kamarupam Durasadam.
Very nice, Shyamji. Radhe Radhe.
Ashutosh ji,
Take one more.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe
Please
Radhe,
go ahead.
Ashutosh.
राधे राधे एवं बुद्धे परम बुद्ध्वा संस्तभ्यात्मानम् आत्मना जहि शत्रुं महाबाहो कामरूपं दुरासदम्.
Very
Radhe
nice.
Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, Ashutosh. So let's quickly go through this and then we'll move on to the next shloka. And for those of you who didn't get a chance, you're welcome to follow that. So in this one, Lord Krishna is saying, thus knowing the soul to be superior to the material intellect, O mighty armed Arjun, subdue the lower self, which includes senses, mind, and intellect, by the higher self, strength of the soul, and kill this formidable enemy called lust. Now let's move on to this one. It's a very, very important shloka, and we're going to revisit it in context of the discussion that we're going to do today. So this one says, Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mamanusmara yudhya cha mayyarpit mano buddhir mame veshyasya samshayam. Okay, do we have any volunteers? Feel confident enough to
Yes.
Okay.
Sumesh ji, please go ahead. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, Suresh.
Radhe Radhe Nidhi, Radhe Radhe everyone.
Radhe Radhe.
Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mamanusmara yudhya cha mayyarpita mano buddhir mame vaishyasya samsayam.
Wonderful.
Radhe Radhe.
Looks like you practiced it a lot of times. Very nice. Sumeshi. Right. Let's pick up. If you have any.
Dinesh ji, Radhe Radhe. Please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe, Dinesh.
राधे राधे तस्मात् सर्वेषु कालेषु मां मनुस्मरयुध्य च मय्यर्पितर्मनो बुद्धिर् मामे वैश्यस्य संशयम्.
Wonderful. Very nice, Dinesh. Radhe Radhe. Do we have any more hands?
Yes, I see Pragi ji's hand.
Yes, Pragi ji, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe, Pragi ji, please unmute yourself.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara yudhya cha may arpita mano buddhir mam aveshyasa sanchayam.
Buddhir mame veshyasya sanchayam. Very nice, Pragi ji. All right, I see one more hand. Let's take one more and then we'll get started.
Yes.
Oppo F3G. Please.
Oppo F3G. Yeah. Please go ahead.
Yeah, Nikita. My name is Nikita. Radhe Radhe.
Nikita ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
It would be good if you
Tas-
please go ahead.
Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara yudhya mayarpita mano buddhi mama evasya sanchayam.
Very nice. Where are you joining us from, Nikita ji?
From Surat,
Surat. Okay, very nice.
Gujarat.
Good to have you on the session. Wonderful. So let's get started. So those of you who are wondering, how did we jump from 3.43 to 8.7? It is a shloka which will come in the course of the discussion that we are going to do, right? The chariot, the direction of the chariot, who's leading the chariot. We've had all that good discussion. And today we are going to do the course correction for the chariot. And that is where this shloka is very, very relevant. So let's look at the quick translation and then we'll get into the deep dive into the shlokas today. In this shloka, Lord Krishna is saying, therefore, there's obviously a context. So we'll continue. Always remember me and also do your duty of fighting the war. Arjun is being told that. Sarveshu Kaleshu means continuously, without any break, every moment. Okay, you remember we spoke about this concept of using an app. You remember that God is with me, God is watching me every hour, and then you can increase the frequency to 45 minutes, 30 minutes, until it starts getting ingrained. That is the highest goal. So what is telling Arjun is, you do your duty of fighting the war, and with mind and intellect surrendered to me, you will definitely attain me. Of this, there is no doubt. That is what Lord Krishna is saying. So we'll revisit it, but for today, let's get started. We'll do a quick recap and we'll get into the details today. We looked at this concept. Kathopnishad explains this beautiful analogy of a chariot which has 5 horses. Horses refer to our senses, 5 senses that we have. They have reins, which is the buddhi, or not buddhi, the man or the mind, which should ideally be used to control rein in those horses. Then we have the intellect, which is the charioteer, and our body is the chariot itself. And then the soul, passenger, is asleep. It's sleeping because it has forgotten what its true identity is, right? For majority of our life, if we have not gone through scriptures, read Bhagavad Gita, or come across this verse, we will not even know that we were not this body, right? So our lives pass by thinking of ourselves as a body. If we elevate a little further, then we associate ourselves with the mind. We think our mind, we are our mind, right? We say my mood is off. What mood is off? It's your mind which is not feeling good. We are not the mind. So we keep on associating ourselves with body and mind, and we are not able to go beyond that. And that is the chariot that we've been carrying lifetime after lifetime. So let's look at it. And because of which, what happens is the passenger, which is the soul, it is subjected to rotating in 8.4 million, because the chariot is not taking it anywhere close to its goal. It's taking it to some random places wherever the senses are leading it. And because of it, binding karma is incurred. And because of it, we keep rotating out in this cycle of 8.4 million species. Human birth comes after a lot of, what do you call that? It's kind of hitting a scholarship or a jackpot amongst these species. And that is why this opportunity, our scriptures recommend that make the most of it, because you can do purusharth and actually divert your chariot in a direction which can actually take you to the goal of human life. So we spoke about this concept as well. And then we spoke about the mappings of each one of these with our intellect, mind, senses, and the fact that if the passenger is able to take control of the chariot, that basically means if the soul, it wakes up to its higher nature, understand who it truly is, and sheds the lower nature, right? Then it can enable the intellect to govern the self, which is the mind, and the senses, the lower self, not the self, but the lower self. The mind and senses are actually the lower self of us, which is included by intellect as well, by the way. So the soul has to really understand, wake up to its true identity, and then this whole cycle can actually be corrected. So the soul is the higher self, and remaining are the lower selves. But until we are able to wake up to our higher self, we have to use one of the lower self, which is our intellect, to actually get to that state of waking up completely. Moving on, we also spoke about the fact that these horses which are driving this chariot are actually impetuous, which is foolhardy, rash, hasty, thoughtless, heedless, wild, uncontrolled, inattentive, irresponsible, all the not so encouraging adjectives that those are associated with our senses, because they are leading us astray. Their only job is to seek pleasure, immediate pleasure, whatever that object of pleasure is. Right? And Kathopnishad says that these senses are outward facing. So it's not made easy, right? First of all, they're impetuous, and now they are outward facing. They will be facing the world and always seeking, going after the object that it gets infatuated or attracted towards. And so the chariot is being driven by these impetuous senses. So we left at this conjecture, that everybody in this world, they are running, but they're truly not aware what they're running after. Okay, it's really not known what they're really going after. With the belief that, okay, I don't know, but if everybody is running after it, then there must be something out there, because everybody is doing that. So what else am I supposed to do? So that is usually the logic your mind will present, because there's no other logic. And we spoke about some of the things that we typically attribute to a successful or a happy life: having that perfect house, car, money, spouse, children, parents, and we had a bit of a discussion around it as well, that is pursuing these things, is there a problem? Of course not, right? But if you look at the common denominator around all of these things which we associate with happiness, if somebody says you will have all of it, we'll say, wow, what a perfect and a wonderful life, right? A life well led, successful life. This is what we would say. So obviously there's no harm in doing that. But let's look at it. What happens? Is it the only part of the equation that we need to solve as part of being humans, right? If we can solve this part of the equation, having that perfect job, that perfect husband or wife, that perfect house that we always thought about, and having a happy family, obedient kids who will listen to you even when they become teenagers, and a happy family where all the subjects, whether it's in-laws or your own relatives, are perfectly aligned, right? Just smiling faces from picture to picture, and in between whatever happens is also perfect. Okay, let's say that happens. So will we term it as a successful life? Will we say, yes, that was a life well led, and I am really satisfied with my life, right? Okay, that is what we are going to discuss today. Now, if you look at this, the common denominator with all these things that we seek is actually seeking happiness, seeking joy, seeking bliss, seeking peace, right? That is the objective why we are seeking that. Now this is an interesting concept, right? We humans all across the globe, not even the twins, they will have same fingerprints, right? Nobody's same. We all are unique. That is how God has scripted us. Even the twins do not have the similar fingerprints and a lot of other attributes or the characteristics that are there to differentiate us. Now, despite so much of difference, isn't it interesting that we all share a common goal? Can you find somebody who will say, no, I'm seeking misery, I'm not seeking happiness? And things that people seek or crave for, if you break it down fundamentally, it will boil down to the same thing. The goal is common. We are seeking happiness, we are seeking joy, we are seeking bliss, we want peace of mind. Everybody, no matter which caste, creed, culture, nationality, or planet the person belongs to. Okay, this is a common denominator. It is kind of interesting. It is one of the wonders of the world if you really think deep about it. Well, why is it that even an atheist, for that matter, right, it has nothing to do with whether you're an atheist or a theist, why is it that compulsively we are all seeking bliss and not misery, right? Sri Maharaj says that the day a child is born, that very day the child announces, I am seeking bliss. How does that child announce that? By crying. Why does it cry? Because it wants to rid itself of the misery it faced or the pain it faced at the time of birth. All of a sudden, from hanging upside down in a cozy lodging in mother's womb, now it's exposed to the world, and that process is very painful. Birth and death both are equally painful. Death probably a little more. But then crying is also a way to alleviate the pain that we are feeling. So intuitively, we know we are all seeking bliss. Our soul, it's unnatural for our soul to be in grief, because soul is anusat, anuchit, anu anand. So that is why, and it's a good thing, because humans have the capability to come out of the biggest disasters, even the tragedies like earthquakes and tsunamis, and any tragedy that happens, we can come out of it with time. For some, it takes long, for some it may take less. But then our soul's natural position is to get towards its true state, which is that of a bliss. So it will compel you to come out of it, unless, of course, through your willpower and incorrect knowledge, you have decided, no, I have to stay in misery. It will compel you to come out of it. That is how we are designed. Okay, and that is our natural state. Soul will reject anything which is not natural after a period of time. And even in scriptures say, Gyani bhukte gyante, Murak bhukte roy. Point being, we have to bear certain grievances, pains in our life, reversals in our life. A Gyani, a knowledgeable person, will will actually face it with knowledge, and person who doesn't have that knowledge, they will face it with crying for a long period of time. We all cry. People, we do have to, because when it's painful, it is painful. But then people who have understanding or start developing spiritual understanding, they will cry for a shorter duration, and people who don't have it, they'll continue to do that. But our natural, like I said, predisposition of our soul is to seek bliss. It has to come out of it. It will compel you to come out of it, unless you have said, no, I choose depression over my true sense. It will not happen. Now, why is it that we all seek the same goal, and why is it that we are seeking bliss? Right? There must be some logical, rational, plausible reason behind it, and there is. Scriptures explain us. Let's look at it. That why do we aspire for happiness? Swami Vivekananda said that, he addressed people like, we are children of immortal bliss. That means we are children of something which has immortal bliss, which is immortal and has bliss. And just like a child is drawn to his mother, each part is naturally drawn towards its whole. I will look at some of the examples from nature to illustrate that point. And similarly, as scriptures tell us, we are small parts of the ocean of bliss, which is God. So we spoke about this concept of God, the Jivatma. We are parts of God. We are parts of the Jiv Shakti of God. And so we are seeking the whole, because we are part of the absolute bliss. God is bliss. God and bliss are synonymous. That is why another name for God is Anand. Okay. So if you have one of your friends whose name is Anand, now you know it's God only, whether that person believes in God or not, but Anand means God. And Chidanand is also God, because Chit rolls up into Anand, and Satchidanand is also God's name, because Sat and Chit also rolled up into Anand. So if you were to define God in one word, that will be Anand. Now, if you look at this tree, the apple has fallen down from this tree, right? And if you do chinta, you may worry something has happened to this tree. If you did chintan like Newton did, you would say, no, it's gravity, right? But the fascinating thing is, why is it falling down? So if you look at it, the part is actually getting drawn towards the whole, from mud into the mud. It actually came from mud. It's a derivative of mud. If you look at it, that technology from seed to plant to fruit is provided by God, but actually it is a derivative of mud, nothing else. In fact, our body is also a derivative of mud. So we are nothing but an atoms of mud. And I mean, from a body standpoint, we are soul, we are divine, we are not atoms of mud, but our body is atoms of mud, nothing else. So if it comes from mud, it goes back to mud. So whether you are a Hindu who burns off the body, or you are a Christian or a Muslim who will cremate the body, or you are a Parsi who will throw the body to the vultures, or in some traditions it's thrown to the seabed, finally it will become mud only. Finally it will end up in mud. So part has to go back to the whole. That is the natural cycle. Another example for that is, if you look at the water cycle that we might have read in a journal science, 4th or 5th standard, I guess. Now, if you look at it again, the cycle from ocean, the water gets evaporated, and then the condensation takes over, it becomes cloud, and then through cloud it rains, or it can manifest in form of snow. The snow will melt, it will come back to the river, and then the river will finally come back to the ocean. So this cycle repeats. So the part is again seeking the whole, and it is no different with us, because we are part of that ocean of bliss, which is God. So our soul is naturally gravitating or craving for that perfect bliss that it has actually come from, or the whole of which it is part of. That is why we are all drawn towards things which give us peace, bliss, joy, and happiness, regardless of whether we are from India or any other country, regardless of whether whichever caste, creed, like I said, nation we belong to. It's all similar across humanity, because we are part and parcels of God. Scriptures explain it very nicely. So hopefully that concept is clear. Like we have spoken about this concept in previous sessions as well. As humans, we have no choice but to seek bliss. You say, no, I don't want to seek bliss, not possible. The scriptures tell us not possible. How can you belie your true identity, that being of part of God? So you have no choice when it comes to seeking bliss. But which direction to seek bliss, you have a choice. And that is what we are going to discuss about today. Now let's get back to our chariot example. That is what we've been discussing, right? These are the five senses. This is the mind, the rain, this is the charioteer, and which is intellect, body, and these senses are seeking pleasurable objects, right? They're running in a particular direction. Maybe the horses, they run in a particular direction altogether, but typically your senses are tugging you towards different directions based on whichever is the predominant sense at given point in time, right? Sometimes you want to watch a particular movie, sometimes a particular food, sometimes a particular kind of music. So it can vary really. And the restraint that is needed is not exercised. So the mind and the intellect, they are submitted to the horses. It said, all right, wherever you want to take us, we are game for it. Okay, that is what the problem is. The pull of the reins is, and the intellect, they are not exercising the power they can actually wield over these horses, because of it, soul, which is asleep, is actually moving around in the individual chariots that we have, and the custom horses that we have based on the sanskars that we have acquired. Our senses are just taking us round and round and round in whatever direction they wish. Again, getting back, so this is the direction. If you look at it, you can see the horses are running towards the right direction, right? And the soul is being carried along. However, at the back of this chariot, along with the soul, basically, I couldn't put that and show the soul here, but in the other direction, there is God. God is not too far away from us. Okay, our scriptures say that the direction that you have taken is just the reverse, because we are seeking happiness. We don't have a choice, and senses are doing the best they can do. It are taking us into a direction where the objects of the senses and our intellect and mind is convinced that is where we will get our happiness. So the direction where you are seeking happiness and the direction in which the true happiness is, they are actually opposite. Okay? So if you are supposed to go to Kashmir and you took a route towards Kanyakumari, and somebody comes along and tells you, hey, by the way, the direction that you have taken is southwards. What you needed to do was to go in the other direction, northwards. What will you do? You simply reverse the direction at that point. When the goal is clear, where we want to go, you simply reverse the direction. So our scriptures tell us, all you need to do is reverse your direction. Not just reverse the direction, but surrender as well. Now, obviously, the next question that will come is, what do I surrender? Surrender what? Should I surrender my body? It is Jad. What are we going to do with surrendering our body? What does it mean, surrendering our body? Scriptures say no, doesn't matter. Do we surrender our senses? We say, okay, these horses, I surrender. Our scriptures say no, because senses in themselves are not doing the work. Senses are working under the direction of somebody. Right? Senses are not independent. So what do we surrender then? Next entity, of course, is mind. Scriptures say yes, mind and intellect as well. These are the two things that need to be surrendered. Now, surrendering intellect, let's look at it from an analogy of chariot again. When Arjun was directing Lord Krishna, take me here to that part of the battlefield and all that stuff, he's still taken control of the chariot. Right? He's directing. But when you surrender, that means you have given control to Krishna or God himself. And that is when he will basically take absolute control over you. Right? So when you surrender your intellect and your mind to God, that means you have given your chariot that was previously being driven by the horses. Now you have given that control to God, not even to your intellect. Okay. The first step is to first arm your intellect to tell the horses, hey, I am the boss, not you. But the second step is even go beyond that, surrender that intellect also to God so that he takes control. Because our intellect is also imperfect. It is made up of Maya. Our scriptures tell us first you have to exercise the buddhi yoga aspect of it, where you arm your intellect, tell the horses who the boss is. okay, and not just continue to play to the whims of the horses. And the second step is you start surrendering that intellect to God as well. Because when Arjun surrendered, that's when Krishna took control. Till the point Arjun thought that he was the driver and he's going to direct, he would continue to take back seat. And that's essentially exactly what's happening in our lives as well. We think we are the boss, we are doing it, we can do everything, we have it all sorted out. So God said, be my guest, I'll continue to take back seat. The day we start increasing our surrender, he will start taking. So if you have 5% surrendered, he'll take 5% control. If you're 10% surrendered, he'll take 10% control. And if you're 100% surrendered, he'll take 100% control. Not just that, but Lord Krishna in 18.66, the executive statement, I always call it as Bhagavad Gita's, he beautifully states, he says, Sarv dharman parityajye mamekam sharanam braj. That forget about all the dharmas and just surrender unto me. And what happens? Because of that, he says, Aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshishyami ma shucha. Don't fear. I'm going to just burn off all your sanchit karmas, all your papas. Okay. So if we were to do it on our own, it's impossible. It's mission impossible. Like I said, we have like infinite sanchit karmas, and even if you take up a big chunk of your karmas, let's say you do a perfect karma yoga in this life, drop by drop, how can you exhaust an ocean? Not possible. So God is giving, when you surrender completely, first of all, he has taken control of your chariot, right, in the right direction. Secondly, he would burn off all your sanchit karmas. So it's like killing two birds with one stone. Done deal. You have corrected your chariot, and at the same time, you have driven your chariot towards the goal of your life, and you have made God your charioteer now. So the saints which descend on this earth, they are driven by God only. They are just mere instruments of God. So they may look worldly people from outside, but they are actually, because they are perfectly surrendered, their intellect is completely driven by God at that point. So that is the key concept of doing the course correction for our chariot that we've been driving in the wrong direction. Now, mind and intellect, again, let's go back to the shloka. This is coming directly from Bhagavad Gita. So if you look at it, God says that remember me, and with mind and intellect surrendered to me, you will definitely attain me. Of there is no doubt. God is very clearly saying surrendering body senses does not count for anything. And surrender is not a word that you speak, I am surrendered. It's a state of mind where you have complete acceptance of God's will. Whether good or bad that is happening in my life is happening for a reason. God is my firm protector and he's my eternal well-wisher. And I need to accept everything with serenity and grace, as opposed to complain that why did this happen to me? That complaint is anyway not going to help. Whatever happened, it happened. But in the process of complaining in our minds, we forfeit an opportunity to perfect Karam Yoga or make a little progress towards surrender. So that is a very key concept. Again, just to reiterate, it's surrender of mind and intellect. Now with that, let's look at some of these things. I think this is where we left, right? All these yardsticks for the material success that we look at in life, right? So that is on one end. Let's talk about it, right? All the stuff that we spoke about, these are the things normally people only crave for. I mean, if you ask me, when I was growing up or wanted to get out of college, all these things I aspired for. It's like a perfect life. If you have that, what more can you ask for, right? The subjects don't align, and that is how this world is designed. God has not made this world for us, so that we get in our comfort zones and never want to get out of it, right? It's Maya Shakti will give us a mixed bag, few things that are not perfect, not aligned, so that there is always a reason for you to question, okay, am I really at the right place or not? But let's say all the subjects are aligned, okay, for somebody, all the factors that we are talking about here, maybe more. Let's put it on one end. Okay, we will do a seesaw, that to do a balance. We'll put it at one end for this life. And on the other end, we will put a prayerful heart and developing love for God. Okay, you put 1,000 million units on the other end of material happiness that we associate with material happiness. Let's say somebody has 1,000,000 units of it on one end, and let's say somebody has 1 unit of it in one lifetime. Having a prayerful heart, that spirit of surrender, and developing or cultivating love for God. So let's say we had 1 unit of love for God from our previous life, or let's say we had 0 unit of love for God in our previous life, and this life we developed 1 unit of love for God. Okay, you put it on one side, and on the other side you put all the perfect happiness that we think about this world. Okay, all the subjects are aligned, everything, no monetary problems, everything that we have. Which one do you think will outweigh the other? The scriptures say love, faith, and surrender that you develop, it will outweigh all the material rewards that you may have acquired in this life, because they count for nothing. When you leave this world, it all stays here. Because of your good fortune, because of your past karmas, because of the providence or the kind of prarabdha you got and the hard work you put in towards acquiring those objects in this life, you may have a lot of these things. May not be perfect, but a lot of these things. But if you have not developed love for God, it counts for nothing. It's 0. Or any of the spiritual gain that you have done. So from spiritual perspective, from God's eye, this outweighs all of that. It's a very important key concept to understand. So with that, let's look at these are the yardstick of a successful life. Again, going back to the same thing. And if you look at this, one thing without which all the material successes count for nothing. It's like, you have 1,000,000, and without the 1, it is just a bunch of zeros. So what is that one thing that will actually make or break or define the very success of this human life? Is it how well you studied, how many entrances we cleared, what kind of a job we got, what kind of a life partner we ended up with, and what kind of family pleasures we could derive from our friends and others? All of that is fine. It's not that those are bad things. Obviously, we need all that stuff. It's good to have that, desire them, and even acquire them. But then if you don't have one thing, it will count for nothing. So that's where I wanted to have a bit of a discussion and get that going, and like to hear from participants as well.
I see Sunilji's hand raised.
Sure, let me do a quick stop share, share again. Yes, let's get it going then. Sunilji, please go ahead.
Yes, Sunilji, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Pallaviji and Nitin Bhai. Okay, so basically it kind of reminds me of, I won't take too long, but reminds me of what Warren Buffett was asked one time about that, you have all this money and you have all this wealth, are you happy? So he compared his happiness to the weather. He said, I don't pay attention to the weather forecast. Tomorrow is going to be cold, tomorrow is going to be hot. I'm just content with what I have. So it's all about with what you have, be content with it, simply put.
Beautiful point, Sunil Bhai. That's true. So if you look at some of these people, very successful people, knowingly, unknowingly, intuitively, non-intuitively, with knowledge or without knowledge, they are actually implementing some of the scriptural principles only in their mind, right? So he's basically telling what Lord Krishna is saying, matra spashastu, shitoshna, sukha dukkhada, that this is something which is fleeting. It will come and go. So don't pay too much attention to that. So Warren Buffett, anyway, he's a pretty interesting guy. And like I said, we had his case study in our V school, and the concepts that he follows, they border on spirituality. Okay, they don't follow the conventional wisdom that financial experts or gurus would tell you, or people here in the conventional financial wisdom that is followed by people, even in acquisitions and all this good stuff that he does. It just borders on spirituality. And if you look at his lifestyle, he leads a pretty ordinary life, reads a newspaper, doesn't have a laptop, drives his small car, and he picks up people, handpicks people who are going to work for them. Great point. Yes, anybody else who wanted to add to this? So see, this is a very strong concept. The chariot concept that we have spoken about, right? First of all, it helps us put things in perspective where we are going wrong, right? If you always think about those horses, Secondly, it tells us that the direction we have taken is wrong. Thirdly, it tells us that the only way to get closer to the bliss and this we are taking is to reverse the direction. And like I said, right, the direction is completely gotten it wrong. And this concept, basically, that one we are discussing, it will actually challenge the belief system that we had in our life, right? So a lot of time we are upset that I don't have this. Everybody is having a normal life. You know, at this stage of life, this should happen. I should have had a job. I should have married. I should have had kid. All that stuff, it will flip that model, that paradigm shift it should bring about. Doesn't count for anything, actually. You just have to have acceptance. You just have to have a belief that, you know, there's a grand plan that is unfolding, and let's focus on things that will truly matter. So when we board an aeroplane, are we allowed to bring our water bottle alongside with us? No, you have to leave it at that area. Similarly, when Mr. Yamraj welcomes us, nothing of it will matter. Only thing that would matter at that point is what is the delta in this human life that you have acquired. Delta means the differential between how you started off and how you are when you exit from this life. So the spiritual treasures or the wealth that we accumulate is the only thing that goes with us. Rest all is useless, nothing else. And the other flip side of, you know, chasing all these material dreams and thinking that is all there is to be when it comes to happiness is it deepens our belief that there is happiness in this world. And it takes us closer to more of an indulgent mindset as opposed to more of a yogic mindset. So that really doesn't help the cause. Yes, if it happens as a byproduct of what you are doing, so be it. But when you start craving for it and thinking that is the sole purpose of life, otherwise my life is a failure, that is a very wrong way of looking at it. All right, let's hear from some other participants as well.
Yeah, I see Shikhaji's hand raised. Yeah, before taking Shikhaji, I'm just reminding everyone the attendance tracker, I have posted the link for it. Whenever you get chance, please go ahead and fill in the attendance tracker.
Thank you, Pallavi. And you may want to make the announcements as well, and then we can continue with the discussion, especially about Sanskriti and other events that are coming up.
Yes, I'll just take.
Sure, you can take your time.
Shikhaji's, yeah,
Sure.
I'll just get ready for that.
Sure.
Yeah, please go ahead, Shikhaji. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, Shikhaji.
Radhe Radhe ji. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Well, I think for me, that one thing would be health. Because, you know, I was just thinking loud, whether it's happiness for me or just health. So for happiness, I would say, like, you know, if in case if I'll get something, like if, you know, I have good, like, you know, I have everything financially, I'm sound, but still, you know, if the relations, like, you know, if my parents will say something to me, I'll be like, you know, feel little sad. And the next day, if they will be nice to me, then I'll be happy again. And the same thing, like, you know, if I'm wanting a project, and if I'll get it, I'll be like, you know, happy. And if I won't get it, I'll be sad. I mean, it just keeps on going here and there, though it doesn't matter how hard you try, but somewhere, you know, we keep on falling into different words, like, you know, sometimes in hell, sometimes in animality, sometimes in heavenly, sometimes in enlightenment. But I think what I have felt since few years, since the time I got my I fell down from stairs and I got my like, you know, tailbone injury. So I feel that, you know, I think health is something which is very, very important for me. So in case if I have, like, you know, material success, you know, if I have everything, whatever I desire, but if I am not well, so I think I wouldn't be like, neither I would be happy, neither I'll be able to cherish all that success and all that luxury, whatever I'll be getting, you know, with it. So yeah.
Great point. It reminds me of the thought for the day we used to have in school, right? Where we say, if wealth is lost, nothing is lost. If health is lost, something is lost. But if the character is lost, everything is lost. A beautiful point, Shikaji. In fact, you know, even if you have toothache, everything else goes for a toss. So it's very important to take care of our body. That is why Swamiji talks about the holistic health, body, mind, and soul. All have to go in unison. So yes, even for our soul to progress in this journey, we need this vehicle of our health to go along with it. So I'm glad at least you have risen above the material things and appreciate the fact that health is very, very important. But let's say you are healthy throughout the lives. Let me say God says, gives you a boon, Shikha. for the rest of eternity, you will have a perfect health. Then will you be
Thank you.
satisfied at that level? That is the real question. Would you like to take your health along with it in your next life? Because that is something you'll have to leave anyways here as well, right? So what would be the next step that you would really like to
I
take?
think maybe the right kind of mindset, then I would say.
Great.
You
Yeah.
know,
Mind is something,
doing good,
mindset you carry.
doing
Very
good, doing good deeds, and just being nice to the people. Because I was reading it somewhere that our nature, like how many friends or what all we have done in our entire life, like how we help people, how we make them feel, that is very important.
true.
It doesn't matter what kind of status we have, like whether we are CEO, whether we are just employee, or whatever we are working in,
Mhm.
in terms of materialism. But if, like for example, our words, they have very very heavy value. If we say something, we cannot take it back. So
True.
if we have met somebody in our lives and we have been really rude, or we have commented or anything like that, that always stays. So that's why it's very, very important, I think, to have a very, very, very right kind of mindset, and choose our words very, very rightly, and at the same time just being helpful to whosoever we can be.
Wonderful.
So yeah.
All right. So let's take the next participant. So I'll tell you one thing now. Okay, we'll take this discussion forward. So now you got your health. You realize that health is something you cannot carry after this life, right? Second thing is, you said being good. Okay, so being good, being nice to people. Yes, you'll get meritorious reward for it. You will be bestowed with a celestial abode. Let's say you lead a perfectly good life helping people. Once you exhaust that, you are again back to 8.4 million. God is not going to say that now that you exhausted your punyas, you will continue to be human forever. You still have to go to 8.4. So being good is not good enough. That is another key learning from Bhagavad Gita. Let's hear from other participants. We'll come back to this concept again. Yes, Palviji, you may want to call upon. Who do we
Yes.
have next in line?
Thank you, Shikhaji. Padmaji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe, Padmaji. Oops. Padmaji, you'll have to unmute yourself.
Yes.
Right. I was just able to. I think the answer that you're seeking here, Nitinji, is surrender. Obviously, that's what I see. Surrender is what you probably is looking for. But I want to add,
I'm not
so
seeking. I'm not seeking that. I'll take you even further. Okay, when you say surrender is the answer. So.
Right. So maybe it's a different answer, but I see it as a recipe, right? The recipe is that happiness that we are seeking, right? The happiness, the true happiness that we are seeking, and we're thinking that we can get in the materialistic world. Even Ravana was seeking happiness, right? Ma Sita is happiness, but the intention and the way that he was actually seeking that happiness and where he was seeking, that was the difference, right? That was the problem, like where that caused his destruction. So the mind, body, mind, and soul. And for me, the answer is that spiritual silence. What does it mean for me that spiritual silence means? That spiritual silence of the bodily desires, right? Silence them in a very spiritual way. What does it mean for me to silence my mind? Or the spiritual silence is silence all that noise that is created in my mind, which comes from the thoughts, and expecting that we can get the pleasure and happiness in this world. That is what for me is that spiritual silence of the mind. The spiritual silence of the soul for me is to act in accordance with my thoughts, which are spiritual, and act in accordance with what my actions are defined by my spiritual thoughts. So for me, it's not one thing, it's a combination of a recipe of body, mind, and soul. And eventually you're doing your duty as much as you can without attachment, because truly we understand from knowledge that there you have to do your actions without detachment. Am I there? I can definitely say I'm not there, but at least that intent is there. And the only way that I'm able to make it work for me is to use that keyword as the spiritual silence of body, mind, and soul.
Wonderful. Very true. Body, mind, and soul, because that's something you would carry, and you would carry that mind to your next life as well. Very true. At least you are carrying some wealth forward, and it's a stepping stone to something higher as well. When you silence the clutter in your mind or the noise in your mind, it's like reducing the fever that we have. after we have reduced the fever, we have to do something as well. So great point. But yes, what you said, even what Shikhaji said, they said, if you don't believe in God, or you don't, really can practice the spiritual principles, then do the next best thing. Try to become at least good. Right? At least you are accumulating something that you can carry forward whenever you are reborn as a human. Great points. Let's hear from other participants as well.
I see a couple of messages in the chat as well, Nitinji. I'll just quickly read a couple of them.
Sure.
Jatinder ji has mentioned to me the health of my spirit, which is important for the purity of mind, which in turn is essential for contentment, peace, and liberation, and love and unity with the divine. Ultimately, daily incremental cleansing, bit by bit, being aware full time.
Great points. I think we are all talking about spiritual concepts. So the good thing about it is, whatever effort we spend in uplifting ourselves spiritually, that becomes our perpetual asset. We never end up losing it. And that is again one of God's mercies, where he preserves it for us. So that is the real wealth for sure. So whenever we come back as humans, we start from that point onwards. So if we have trained our mind, we would have befriended it to a certain extent when we resume our human life again. Great points. Thank you very much. Let's hear from I can see some new hands as well today.
Yes. So Nitinji, is it okay if I take a quick moment to make some announcements?
Sure. We can do that and then we'll continue. I can see Tanya G and Oppo F3G, new names. So
yeah, sure, definitely. So I would like to make an announcements for the featured events. So first of all, this is on 19th February, Saint Tyagaraja Aradhana, and that is going to be online as well as in the temple. This is going to be Tyagraj Aradhana is observed every year by artists, gurus, students, and connoisseurs of Carnatic music. So this is very really musical kind of event looks like. So please take advantage of it. Please do plan to attend this event. The other event which is upcoming is going to be Dallas Holy Fest. I think it is going to be in March. So we'll keep providing more information about it. That is in this is on 19th March. But before that, I wanted to mention especially about Sanskriti, which is a cultural extravaganza by J.K. Yog, Bal Mukund, and Youth Club students. There will be a competition on singing contest, dance contest, drawing, coloring, Sudoku, chess. There are a lot of opportunities. Do encourage your kids and your teenagers, your friends and family. Please do participate. This looks like a great opportunity for kids to perform and take advantage of performing art.
Wonderful.
So these are the main events, and we'll keep providing links about all the events so that you can take a look at all the details.
Thank you, Pallavi. And first we have Harry Anand coming up, and forgot the name of the singer, Balam Pichkari, whoever has sung that, she's coming.
Yeah.
All right. So
okay, for Holy Fest, you were mentioning about Holy Fest, right?
That's right. Not
sorry, Nitinji, I am not able to see the name of the singer here.
No worries. I think we've given enough information for people to be able to check it out. So I think we are good. We can continue with that discussion now.
All right. Thank you everyone for waiting. Seema ji, please go ahead. Radhe Radhe. Thanks for waiting.
Yes, thank you. Radhe Radhe everyone. What is that one thing without which all the material success counts for nothing? And I would say I would prefer God's grace. Without that, for me at least, nothing counts. And God's grace can be achieved through total surrender. And then also what goes with us with that total surrender is mind, our sanskars and memories, sorry, for the next life. That's it. Thank you.
Wonderful. That's true. God's grace, if you can invite that to surrender, that means we have earned it, and then at least we have cracked it to a certain extent in our mind how to attract it, and that becomes our perpetual asset as well. Wonderful, very nice, Seemaji. Thank you for that.
Tanya ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe, Tanya ji.
Radhe Radhe, Nitin ji, Radhe Radhe, everyone. This is just a guess, but I think this. Can you hear me okay?
Yes,
Yes.
we can hear you.
I think it's love for God, because that is the goal.
Did you use your call a friend lifeline before answering this question?
I should have.
That is true. In fact, yes. In fact, it is said, beautiful point. In fact, that is the the ultimate thing. End of the day, any exercise that we are doing, spiritual or otherwise, if it doesn't translate to cultivate love for God, actually it becomes mechanical. But obviously, it's a stepping stone. A lot of activity. You cannot simply develop love for God, because there are a lot of steps that would lead us to that. But yes, even if you have developed this much of love for God, that is like the real wealth, right? That bhajan is there, Ore More Man, in which a line comes, beautiful line, Woh Jeevan, kya Jeevan jisme Jeevan dhan se pyar na ho. So the very basis of our life, if you're not able to develop a bit of attraction towards it, it's actually a wasted opportunity. The very basis of our life, who's given us this whole opportunity to live and breathe. So to develop that is the highest thing we can actually do. And if you don't do that, if you have everything in our life, that life is actually a wasted opportunity, is what our scriptures tell us, right? So what we normally associate with success, the regular things, as you can see on the left hand side, actually they count for nothing much. If you get it, that's fine. I mean, there's no harm in having a perfect life, but the real thing is developing, cultivating love and attraction towards God. And the surrender and faith are just a natural consequence of it. People whom you really love, you will automatically surrender to them. You'll automatically have faith with them. So rest all will follow. Great point, Tanya ji. Thank you for adding that. Let's hear from other participants as well.
Yeah. Nikita ji, please go ahead, unmute yourself.
Radhe Radhe, Nikita ji.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe. So keeping the chariot image and the direction in my mind, I'm thinking that human life is such a great opportunity to choose God and to choose love for God. So just like Krishna deliberately created delusion in Arjun's mind to teach Bhagavad Gita to all of us, in this human life, what all experiences that we have, that is an opportunity for us. So for example, let's take a poor and really unsuccessful people, let's say, keeping this yardstick in mind. So they are also getting the opportunity to turn their intellect to reverse their direction towards God. And even the successful ones also get the opportunity to, even if they are happy, they also get the opportunity to reverse the direction and move towards God. So either way, we are benefited, but the only question is that if we choose God and have enough strength to trust and develop faith in Him. And like you said, then even a 1% of love and faith towards God will outweigh the other rest of the things that are accumulated.
Wonderful.
So that is the choice.
Great point. Yeah, in fact, you brought in very interesting point. In order for us to develop faith and love for God, like Tulsidas ji in Ramayana, he has said that Jane binu hoye na paratiti, binu paratiti na hoye priti. So with knowledge, with proper knowledge, we will develop faith, and with faith will automatically come love in the due course of time. So we have to systematically look at it and then take steps and measures to start cultivating the required knowledge, and which will eventually lead to faith and love as well. Great point. Thank you very much. Let's hear from other participants as well.
Thank you. Anshuman ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe. I would like to say something in response to Shikhaji's point regarding health. Well, health is very, very important, and for the human form and to realize our potential, it is important. But it is necessary, but not a sufficient condition for our realizing our true potential. So there are a lot of people who are very, very healthy, but they are not connected with God, and they are wasteful of their life. So extremely important, but can't be ignored. And next point is regarding what is the one. Well, our spiritual balance is our connect with God, and as you mentioned, love for God. All of us have a different degree of love for God. That's why we are attending this session, and we need to have a deep desire, intense longing for God. And the idea is to be one with God and live in God. So God alone, and that is what is should be our goal. And material wealth will go away. People, when they die, I think if we look on an average, they leave a lot of wealth, which is given to people who are not deserving. And I think there are a lot of things which we accumulate, all our stuff, what we buy throughout our life. I think it's not going to help others. Now, the point here is how much close we are to God, and are we one with God? I think that is the ultimate. Thank you.
Wonderful point, Anshumanji. That's true. In fact, it is said that we leave more wealth than we could ever spend, to the next generation. That is how the cycle keeps on repeating, generation after generation. And even, people who become very ambitious with their jobs, the day we die, the work at our job would still remain, right? That work will not get finished. So it's just about prioritizing, because our senses are leading us, right? Our mind needs something to work with. And if the knowledge is not proper activity, then you simply start running after the things that you see around, that okay, these are the yardsticks for success, and this is how the template life needs to be, right? We talk about, okay, at certain stage of our life we should have acquired at least this milestone, and that is how we measure our success. But the real one is the spiritual wealth that we acquire, and the crown jewel on top of that is the love for God. How much attraction we feel towards Bhagavad Vishay or towards God is the real treasure that we can carry. And that's the topmost goal for there. Beautiful points, Anshumanji. And I like the statement that you said, it is necessary but not sufficient, right? That the health aspect of it is, it's very important but not sufficient, when we really talk about our spiritual milestones, so to say. Okay, let's hear from others. Quite a few other hands are raised as well.
Yeah, let's go ahead with the discussion. I see Swati Ji's hand raised. Swati Ji, please unmute yourself.
We're just a little bit above time, but I think maybe we can take 2-3 participants real quick.
Yes, Swati Ji, please go ahead.
Hello.
Yes.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, Swati Ji.
Am I audible?
Yes, yes, very much.
Yeah. I just wanted to say one thing, that health is important. As we say, health is wealth. To do the sadhana and to God realization in this life, health is important, but we cannot carry it forward in the next life. So what takes us to next life is the sadhana for the God love, and that whatever God realization we want to get closer to that spiritual wealth we will carry in the next forward life. And I am doing that. That sadhana is the most important thing what we can carry.
Wonderful.
According to me.
Beautiful point, Swati Ji. That's true. Health we cannot carry, but whatever work we have done on our mind in training it to do austerities to maintain that health, that discipline, or those sanskars we will carry in our next life. So those will be helpful. But yes, the true wealth from a spiritual standpoint is, whatever gains we have made, strides we have taken in spiritual progress. And sadhana is the way, sadhana, which includes that karam sannyas sadhana we do, or rup dhyan we do. All those things are the true wealths that we carry from lifetime to lifetime whenever we are born as humans. Beautiful point. Thank you so much, Aarti Ji. Swati Ji, rather.
Swati, Aarti Ji, yeah, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe, ma'am. Radhe Radhe, everyone.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, sir. It is the same thing. The essence is same, but what I felt during this time is seed is sown in the soil and the seed grows itself.
Yep.
We seem to be doing things, but it is God who is doing. And involuntarily also, the entire body system inside is working. So it is not that we are taking the life forward for ourselves. All the opportunities that are coming in our ways is God's way to keep, not only for the survival, but also checking out that the God who is doing everything unconditionally, whether there's a senses and mind is taking power or our love for God is intact. So it is a constant checking also that the unconditional love in every ways that we are getting, are we disconnected in the sway of the senses? We are giving so many logics and reasoning to the mind to satisfy ourselves that this is the eternal source of love, and we should direct our, because mind also needs to be quietened, because for the temporary pleasures that we get, and that invisible thing is not that we are going to get at end and we are being in reunion with the God. The union is always there, but the senses are taking overpowering. So it is that unconditional love that we are always getting. It is that we should be more directed towards, always is kept on remembering gratitude thing. We should, for every breath, for every heartbeat. Nobody is, I mean, we are not the one who is, I mean, it is all because of the grace of God that we are getting. And our remembrance with love should always be there with Him.
Very true,
So,
Swatiji. Yes, that's true. And I think you brought a very good point. The more gratitude we have, with the acknowledgement for all the little things that we take for granted, the more grace we attract from God as well. That's a great point you brought out. So when we start expressing gratitude, start feeling it from heart and not take things for granted, then the more grace we acquire from God, more of it. Beautiful points, Artiji. Thank you so much. Yes, a couple of other hands.
Yeah. Nitinji, Anusha ji has also mentioned about that even if material things around us is perfect and overly sumptuous, one question that can make a huge difference is that all it meant in our life and what is the purpose of my life.
True.
This question can help us realize the true purpose of human life.
Very true. That's very true. Doesn't matter actually. If they happen, if circumstances are favorable, they get lined up, that's fine. Maybe because of our prarabdha, or like I said, maybe a lot of hard work that we have done in this life or past lives, that's fine. But that is not the goal of life. If they are favorable, it becomes easy for us, right, to pursue spirituality. But if we get hung up get intoxicated by life itself, then it's a wasted opportunity. That's what our scriptures are saying. And there are very few people who, with stars being aligned in every direction in the world, still take to spirituality, right? With a lot of sanskars, possibly, but otherwise we get lost in life, right? They say the intoxication of life is so high for us that we don't want to get out of it, and you start riding high and high and high. That is why God knocks and gives you some reversal from time to time. Okay, let's do some check and get these people, do some course correction. It's like that child which is so busy playing with toys, mother sometimes snatches away that toy, that hey, you need to have your dinner as well. Similarly, God also does those kind of things from time to time, because we get so hung up in this play which is really not adding too much value to our soul at all. Okay, let's hear from
Beautifully explained. Thank you, Nitinji.
Yeah.
Sunitji, Radhe Radhe.
Sunitji, Radhe Radhe.
Go ahead. Yeah, thank you for waiting. Go ahead. Okay.
Yes, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Yes, Nitinji, recently what I realized when I was doing morning meditation, I see myself, I try to see myself as a soul, like soul is there and Sunit is sitting there. So, it is very, very cold in India. Then I realized, look, this soul doesn't need anything. But for meditation, I need that cap, this sweater, this comfort, all these material things. Because otherwise, then I start laughing. Yes, this soul doesn't need, but I need all these things to do this meditation. Otherwise, I cannot do that meditation. So what I realized that we were not told about this 4D lifestyle, that the body, mind, relationship, finance, we need everything need to be balanced.
Yes.
Like when we got married, we gather all these material things. Now I have everything, but still that something I miss. That's why I am on these sessions. So I did understand that we need that balance of 4D lifestyle. Radhe Radhe.
Beautiful point, Sunitji, and I won't be surprised if few months down the line, you become Vaidehi, right? Where you don't really care, and you're situated in your perfect self. So that can happen as well, because you've been pretty regular, and the enthusiasm that you show is very palpable. Always good to hear from you.
Thank you.
Radhe Radhe. Thank you so much for that. Yes.
Yeah, Hitalji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
All right, Radhe Radhe, everyone. So I agree with every point has been displayed and manifested here, which is what is exactly a meaning of the life, right? But what I noticed that the yardstick of a successful life is already been displayed there, and we can't escape from it. Since we born, right, we live in this world, we have to do all these mundane activities, and we have to go through everything, right? At the stage of starting from the born till death, right? So we are born for the reasons. But only things we need to make sure that what we do, all karmas, we have to have a God with you in each karmas what we are doing. So the God is in the front of everything. As like, let's say if you go to job, as Swamiji always say, like if you do any activity, if you keep the God in front of you, then all your karma is you are denoting to the God.
Yep.
So we don't, yes, we have a love for God. That is for sure. That's why we are keeping them in the front for everything we do. So the all successful, this is our success. That's it. And that's bring us the happiness. And that's a state of mind. That is up to us, how we content what we have, right? So there is no end of it.
Very
so
true.
Everybody has to have a one point that should be a content. Yeah. So that's pretty much.
Beautiful point, Hetalji. In fact, I was listening to Swamiji's interview, he was talking about, see, the 80% of our life revolves around work, some kind of a work or interaction with people around. And if spirituality was limited to doing bhajan kirtans or puja, during twice a day or something like that, then it would become a very drab affair. So God has given us a very beautiful arena, to practice spirituality in every walk of life. 80% is work, right? Where we do that. So if we can actually use it as an arena or a laboratory to implement the concepts of spirituality, then all the hours, extra hours that you get, right? 80% is a lot of time in our life. Then you can really make them count. So that is why the concept of Karam Yoga, where you can bring in the practice of spirituality in your day-to-day work and your day-to-day interactions, can actually help you bring that spirituality into the mix, not just limited to a one-off, pujas or ceremonies that we do, and also progress faster, because that all the concepts that we are talking about, the concept of surrender, the concept of offering the fruit to God, connecting your mind to God, thinking about God, they are already brought into the mix when you think about Karam Yoga. And Karam Yoga is something that, it's kind of a, like I said, arena that you can, basically we are subjected to that day in and day out, right? In our works, in our interactions, in managing relationships and everything. So if we can actually bring devotion into that, start looking at it from a spiritual angle, that's it. We are on the way then. Great discussion. Anybody? I think I see one more hand. Maybe we can really quickly, Pragiji, and then please fill out the attendance tracker if you have not already so. Feedback tracker, I call it. I mean, it's not attendance anymore. So please do fill it up. I'd like to read out the comments just to get a pulse on how the sessions are going and if something needs to be changed. So please do take out a moment for that as well. Yes, Pragiji, real quick.
Radhe Radhe, yeah, I am just quick. What I am thinking ki the one thing without which all the material successes count for nothing is peace of mind. If you are at peace, your mind is at peace, then nothing, all these things don't bother you. It's just like we can't see reflection in the boiling water. If the water is calm, and then we can see our reflection in that.
Very true.
What I'm thinking. Thanks, Radhe Radhe.
Beautiful point, Pragiji. Peace, yes. So the next question is, how do you get perfect peace? Right? If you are going to, even if you get to Sattva, let's say Sattva Guna, that is also tainted with the white color. So the perfect peace can happen only when you tap into the divine Gunatit, you go there. So that peace will not be lasting as long as it is related to something in the material world. So yes, your question, that understanding is perfect. We need peace at the end of the day. Peace, joy, bliss, they can actually be combined together. But how do you get that is the question. Again, the equation, you need to bring God into the mix, because you cannot get perfect peace otherwise. That is what perfect peace is. Beautiful point. We'll continue this discussion. Tomorrow we start with the Mahatmya of chapter 4. Finally, we are into chapter 4. And I look forward to another interesting discussion tomorrow. With that, Radhe Radhe, and let me do the closing prayers for the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, anything else, Pallavi?
Yeah, Nitinji, sorry I was not able to capture all the chats. There were a lot of messages of people. They did mention about good health, most of the people, and then grace of God. But individually, I apologize. I couldn't read all of the messages.
Okay, no worries. If there is anything, you can fill in the attendance tracker, and I generally make it a point, if there is a question or something, try to bring it in.
There's no question. Otherwise, I would have asked you.
Sure, feel free to put in your comments also in the tracker. That way, if they did not get read, I'll get an opportunity to read those as well. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Over to you. Yeah.
Thank you. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramaya, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschit Dukha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you, everybody. Radhe Radhe. Have a wonderful day and a great rest of your evening. And I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow.
Thank you, Nitinji, for such a wonderful session. And everyone, have a great day. Have a beautiful evening. Radhe Radhe. We'll see you tomorrow.
Radhe Radhe.